we're going to do a study group about using LLM to study for the MuleSoft Integration Architect 1. And this is the practice exam. I just downloaded the PDF file, so I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to use Claude today. I've been using a couple of different ones. I have OpenAI and Claude both installed locally now, so you can have a big grudge match between them. I'm going to use Claude for this one. And what I do is I attach the file of the PDF. So if I go to my desktop, here's the Salesforce Certified Integration Architect Practice Exam. And first thing I do is I make a prompt that I tell the LLM what's wrong with it, right? So this is the practice exam for the MuleSoft Integration Architect certification. Your objective, I've started using this kind of, I don't know, mission-oriented language when I'm writing prompts, where I tell the LLM what its objective is, and I'm getting more direct results where it doesn't spend so much time talking about the problem and it gets to the point, right? So your objective is to interactively help me study for this certification. Now, I'm just showing you we're going to do two prompts. I'm going to do one now that's good for you to go and do by yourself. But we are in a study group, so I'm going to come back and do a different prompt for the study group. Okay, so your interactive help me study for this certification. The practice exam, unfortunately, is designed so that all the correct answers are very predictable. All right. When I ask you to present a new question, right? Choose a random question and display the question number and the question text. If the question has a diagram, tell me so. And now this is the important part. It is very important to shuffle the answers and relabel them in sequential alphabetic order. Do not tell me the correct answer. So this is kind of how I've been doing my study sessions with the practice exam. When you have understood the process, tell me I'm ready, and we will begin. So this is kind of, I wanted to show you the way I'm designing prompts. I keep practicing, and I don't know if you have some better ideas. Okay, so I wanted it to wait and not give me a question, but let's see what it did. It said, let's start with a question 45. And we can do this question together now in the study group, right? So connector uses repeatable in-memory stream with these configurations. And I know this question because I've seen the practice exam a lot. This question has problems. So we can talk about the question, first of all. And then what I'm going to do is I'll pull up the practice exam, and we're going to go see, especially since this is a flawed question, I don't mind showing you the real practice exam. On the practice exam, all the answers are A, right? So this is question 45. We go down to number 45. Let's see how it did. Right. So there is a diagram, see? And let's see how my prompt did. It did not tell me there was a diagram, so we need to improve the prompt, right? So also, it did shuffle the answers, so that's good. Also, the diagram is dumb. It's not a very useful diagram. So just that, the first thing I wanted to start our study group with today is just this process I'm using to get the LLM to help me study, and then see if we can fine tune it and improve it. Now, this is a very solo, one person at a time thing. But anyway, since we're here, why don't we actually grapple with the question itself and see what we can make out of it? Anybody have any idea about this question? What you're noticing, and if you can rule any answers out or something? What is it, a repeatable in-memory stream? Anybody know what that is? Only me? All right, let's do it. So I'm going to open up a workspace in Studio, and a connector that uses a repeatable in-memory stream is going to be using it in order to do what? What does it use a stream for? What do streams do?
Like threads that something can happen to.
Is it something can happen to? Yeah, they're certainly active, but they're still data, right? They don't have any logic. This one does have logic because it's repeatable, but its job is for the connector, right? To allow Mule to read data into it, right? So if it's like, let's go look at one, okay? So we're gonna go look at here. I'll use another connector, although sockets is just confusing. But let's go add the SFTP connector, and we'll do a read, right? If I make a flow with a read, it has a stream configuration, right? Different kinds of streams. So when you read a file from an FTP server, Mule's going to have to go download it, right? So when it downloads it, it could download it into RAM, and then it won't be a stream. It'll be a string in RAM or a byte array, right? And that's fine if you're okay, number one, waiting until the whole thing gets downloaded before you move on to step 2, right? Maybe step 2 is we're going to go read from folder A, right? And we're going to write to folder B, right? So that's simple, like we're going from one FTP server to another one, right? So if I don't want to use streaming, right? If I didn't use streaming, which we might not, there's a whole bunch about streaming. I think I did a streaming lesson for a study group a few months ago. If we didn't use streaming, then this whole file gets read into RAM, which is on the Java heap, right? And then it gets written after that to folder B. So it's pretty nice that we're not doing that, right? It's pretty nice that we're using a stream, because then the Mule event is going to move on to step 2 without waiting for the whole file to download yet. Instead, the payload is going to be this stream object that will allow the write step to pull the data as it needs, right? So a stream travels from step to step, which takes very little RAM, rather than the entire contents of the file, which could be, I don't know how big the file is, but it might be big, right? Maybe it's a video or something, or a big, some kind of large CSV file or whatever, XML, some kind of big data, right? So if we wanted to let Mule have the write operation upload little by little while the data is still being downloaded by the read operation, then we could use a stream. And that's what Mule does. It does use a stream already without us having to program it. So the question here is about what kind of stream? A repeatable in-memory stream, which kind of sounds like it defeats the purpose, but it doesn't, right? Because it's repeatable, which means the stream's contents are going to be stored in RAM. That's the in-memory thing, right? But it doesn't mean the entire data will be stored in RAM. Just the window that it's reading is going to be stored in RAM. So this question's asking us, it's not asking us what kind of stream we want to use, is it? It's asking us, the code already is written like this. It uses an in-memory stream. That's a given. And that's what I do with these certification questions. Find what my constraints are. So the constraint is it uses that, right? No, it's not asking us to use something else. And it gives us a bunch of settings for this. And then it says, what happens if the output payload size is 1000 KB? And a few reasons I hate this question in the practice exam. One is that the material about this topic, this particular question, is incorrect in the MuleSoft Trailhead Academy class still. It's still a bug they haven't fixed. and I reported it already, but they hasn't been updated in the curriculum yet. So the curriculum says that the answer is B. Now, let's see if we can reason. I mean, that seems like it would make sense, right? That, if your data is bigger than your budget, then it could crash. But out of memory error happens when Java runs out of RAM, right? So 1000 KB is only how much? It's only 1 MB, right? So what's the chances that 1 MB is going to crash and run out of all of your Java memory? Not too much, right? You wouldn't even need to know all the stuff I was just talking to you about to know that 1 MB is probably not going to run out of RAM on the whole server, right? You can kind of rule that one out, right? It looks right, it smells right, but it's not going to happen. That's definitely not what's going to happen. If this said 1 TB, then I couldn't rule this one out immediately. Also, it still wouldn't be the right answer. But if this was a lot of data, then we might be more likely to think B is is feasible, right? But with 1 MB, B is not even feasible. Are you with me? I hope if you agree. So we're looking at kind of what the rest of this is all about. And I think this question is trying to get at, do you understand what repeatable streams accomplish, right? So in the practice exam, it says that the right answer is A. A runtime error is thrown. And I'm going to justify that before I tell you why I disagree with the practice exam on this question. Anyway, because this is about learning like the actual content, right? Not just we're not memorizing answers, right? So let's do this. Let's go to the repeatable in-memory stream, and we'll go to the max buffer size. There's a help. You have to kind of find it. You mouse over the field, and it says this is the maximum amount of memory that will be used. And we haven't talked in this session yet what it's being used for. But the maximum amount of memory that's going to be used for the repeatable stream to buffer data. If more than that is used, then an error is raised, right? And if we look back at the question, a runtime error is thrown. That's what the question is saying is the right answer too. So I think whoever wrote the question, that was their analysis. That they said, well, that's what this thing does, is it raises an error if you run out of RAM. The problem is they missed something, in my opinion, because repeatable streams, we don't have enough information to know it's going to run out of RAM. In fact, the example I made for you won't run out of RAM because we're never going to use any buffer because the data is going to be streamed directly, right? What the buffer does in repeatable streams is this. Let me show you. We could make a scatter gather, right? And I'm going to have to add a little bit more in here, but let's put a scatter gather in here. All right. And now we're going to upload to folder B, and we're also going to loop over all the data and call an API. Okay, so I'm going to go make it let's say this is XML data coming in. I'm going to add the little streaming parameter to it like this. And then you have to also, with XML, you have to tell it what the streaming collection path is. So like, let's say this is like orders.order or something. Actually, I think it's XPath. It might be XPath. I have to look that one up. I don't know if it's XPath or DataWeave, but that's an XPath way of doing it. /order/order. Right. But anyway, what I'm telling it I want it to do is to stream XML elements. Give me an order, and then the next order. And that way the output is going to get one order element at a time. That's all DataWeave streaming stuff. So now I've made it stream, and I will be able to do a for each, right? So I could do a for each on payload.orders.star_order, right? And now that's kind of hard to read, but maybe I can make this window bigger. There we go. So I'm telling it I want to iterate over all the order elements, right? And we'll do a little transformation and call an API, right? Like this. So now our flow is a little more worried about, so this is call API, right? Now our flow is going to have two things that it has to do with the data at the same time, right? One of them is upload it to a server and directly, but the other thing is it has to read the data, loop over it, call the API, which is going to be a lot slower, isn't it? Right? Because if, let's say there's 10,000 of those orders in there, it's going to not take very long to upload 10,000 orders directly, right? It's going to go and upload. But the loop is going to take a long time because we got to go every single one of those 10,000 orders. We're doing an HTTP request, right? So now we've got one parallel process, one concurrent process that takes a long time, and another concurrent process that doesn't take a long time, both using the same input data. And the repeatable stream allows that to work. However much data has already been downloaded but has not yet been looped over, it's going to have to be stored in a buffer somewhere. And that's what that buffer does. So, right? This buffer holds whatever data has already been written to folder B, but has not yet been sent to the API. That Mule has to store that somewhere, right? Because in order to send it to folder B, we had to download it, right? But in order to, but we haven't used it to call the API yet, right? So however much data gets downloaded and is still not yet uploaded to the API, it's going to have to be in a buffer. And in that case, with this question, we're going to get this stream maximum size exceeded error because it's too much data. I ran out of room, and that's good. Why is that good? That's good because if you don't do that, then your application has no memory control on it, right? If we use a non-repeatable stream, it won't even work. You can't have, in fact, you get an error when the application tries to start because there's two stream consumers and only one non-repeatable stream. So Mule just won't even run that, right? So then the other options is you could put a giant cap on it, right? So what if I make this, 10 megabytes or 10 gigabytes? Well, if I go run that on Cloud Hub, now I'm going to crash the VM, right? Because now we're going to put 10 gigabytes in RAM and we don't have 10 gigabytes of RAM. So what this is good for is it allows us to have precise control over the memory requirements of this process, just this process, not the entire application, right? So that's the use of an in-memory stream for these settings for the in-memory stream. And that's why I think this question has a flaw, right? Which is that it doesn't tell me whether there's two stream consumers or not. It just tells me the settings for the stream. So what I do when I read the question is I give a little grace to whoever wrote the question, and I assume that they left that detail out. And it is going to use the whole buffer, right? Because this is kind of what I think will happen. I think if you don't, it is very possible that when you use a repeatable stream, the payload could be bigger than your buffer, and it's fine because it's not all in RAM at the same time, right? So the question doesn't really give me conclusive evidence between C and A, right? So, but you can rule out B and D. B and D are absolutely not it. So let's use the LLM maybe to go make a better question, right? So write a better question for the same for the about in memory repeatable streams. Do not make this question multiple choice. Instead, I want fill in the blank. The flaw with this question is that we don't know how many consumers the stream would have. The stream in the question has coming afterward. So we can't clearly choose between A and C, right? So that's what I just told you. Now we've written it and we've told the LLM that's what we think about it, right? Now here's a key thing I want to use. I have tools set up. So in your LLM tool, you can make MCP tools. MuleSoft has a new MCP connector. We're probably going to do a study group about it sometime. This is not that study group. This is the study group about getting certified. So anyway, I have web search built into my connector, right? My LLM. So I'm going to tell it to go on the web and find out, right? This is key, right? I'm going to hit Shift Enter so it doesn't send. Shift Enter, and I'm going to say use the documentation at docs.mulesoft.com as well as web searches to verify that your question reflects accurate information about the Mule streaming features. All right, let's see how it goes. I'm winging it. I didn't practice this before the study group. Let's see what happens. It says, do I want to let you search the web? Yes, I do. So it's going off on the internet and searching all about streaming, right? Here we go. So we got, let's see what it did. Fill in the blank question. Repeatable in-memory streams. When using I kind of wanted an essay question, but it did what I told it. I said fill in the blank, but I got fill in the blank. Oh well. When using a repeatable in-memory stream in Mule 4, if the payload exceeds the configured math buffer size and there are blank, oh, well, it just told me what I knew. Attempting to consume the stream, a streaming buffer size exceeded exception will be thrown. That is inaccurate. That's not what will be thrown. This is not the error that will be raised. Yeah, check. Yeah, it does. You have to work with it, right? Check the Mule documentation to find the proper error and write a new question about this that expects a long with multiple choice answers this time. There, it found it. You can see it thinking. Stream maximum size exceeded. It found this time. It asked me about that. Great. Okay, let's try presenting another question from the practice exam. The same way we did the first one. So I got, because, this is one of the dangers with LLMs is what they call long context windows. So the longer this goes, every token that it has to predict it has more and more input. So those are called the long context windows, and LLMs get their performance degrades with the longer the context window is. They start to get more hallucinatory. They think of new things, but let's see what happens. Let's see, question 33. In this Mule application, let's go see what question 33 looks like in the actual practice exam. 33, it does have a exhibit. In this Mule application, it also failed to tell me that it had an exhibit. The retrieve file flows event source reads a CSV file from a remote SFTP server and then publishes each record in the CSV file to a VM queue. The process customer record flow VM listener receives messages from the same VM queue and then processes each message separately. It's deployed to multiple Cloud Hub workers with persistent queues enabled. How are messages routed to the Cloud Hub workers as messages are received by the VM listener? The question includes a diagram. At least it told me that this time, right? Showing the flows design with all that stuff. So here's the diagram, folks. Here we go. And this is a Cloud Hub 1.0 question for sure, right? So it's on multiple workers with persistent queues enabled. And the answers are all about horizontal scaling, basically. So each message is duplicated to all of the Cloud Hub workers, thereby sharing each message with all the Cloud Hub workers. So how many people think that's at least that's a potential answer? A. Anybody a fan? For VM queues, anybody a fan of each message being duplicated to all the Cloud Hub workers with these flows? What does a VM queue do? Does it duplicate messages ever? No, it doesn't. Right? So you can rule that one right out. Okay, VM queues are not going to duplicate any messages, period. Right? Because queues don't do that. You put one message in, one message comes out, right? So there's no magic in Cloud Hub 1 that's going to make something different happen. A is definitely not the answer, right? Because you don't have one-to-many messaging in the VM connector. That just doesn't do that, right? It only, and the clue is the word queue, right? It's not an exchange, it's not a topic, it's not a publish subscribe channel, it's a queue. It's point to point, one message in, one message out. So it can't be A, right? So the other options are each message is routed to one of the Cloud Hub workers in a deterministic round robin fashion, thereby exactly balancing messages across the Cloud Hub workers. The next one says each message is routed to one of the available Cloud Hub workers in a non-deterministic, non-round robin fashion, thereby approximately balancing messages among the Cloud Hub workers. And then D says each message is routed to the same Cloud Hub worker that received the file, thereby binding all messages to only one Cloud Hub worker. Okay, the application is deployed to multiple workers, and there's persistent queues enabled. So this is one of those questions where MuleSoft's trying to see if you know what the vocabulary means. What are Cloud Hub workers, and what does it mean if you turn on persistent queues? And what does VM queue mean? This is, you're going to only get so far if you don't have familiarity with the product, right? Because you're not going to know what all that stuff means, right? So you're going to have to bring some knowledge to bear about what VM queues do and what persistent queuing means when you enable it, and what is a Cloud Hub worker, right? So maybe we can bring some of that to bear and rule some of these answers out. So what I'll do is I'll move my Claude window over, right? And I'll put the diagram back on here. And we'll see if anybody can help get us further into this question, right? So looking at all the answers, how can I make this? There we go. We already ruled out A because VM queues never do that. We've got load balancing in 2 of the answers, and we've got no load balancing in 1 of the answer. Right. That one, the last one says message comes in, worker number 1, message stays on worker number 1. Right. And then B and C, messages crisscross. Right. They go from retrieve file. Look at this. You get one file in. You're putting all the lines of the file into the queue, and they're going to get it. What do you think?
Well, I guess you can rule out D, right? Because it's persistent queue.
And let's just
If it were an in-memory queue, then D could be right.
If it were an in-memory queue, D would have to be right. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Now, if the persistent queue is on local disk, D would also be right.
Yeah, but it's a Cloud Hub, right?
But it's on Cloud Hub. Yeah.
So it's a shared file between all the workers, kind of.
That's what it does. Yeah, it's a SQS thing, which that's not a feature in Cloud Hub 2.
Yep.
It's only in Cloud Hub 1. So then the only question is it deterministic or not deterministic?
This is where I'm confused with the definition, because like round robin is supposed to be non-deterministic. per definition. That's, I guess, the definition of round robin. How can round robin be deterministic?
Well, that's not this question, but that is a good question. So in Mule, there's a round robin router that is deterministic.
Is it?
This one, it will always go option 1, then option 2, then option 3, then option 1. If you test it, this one is always message by message is going to be sequential 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. It's not, there's no randomization for this one.
You see, I learned something new today.
Yeah, I tested that one. You can get it to, the one way I've gotten it to surprise me, although I've proven why I think it's still okay. If you use a subflow reference inside a round robin, you get so if this whole, if I put the round robin in a subflow instead of a flow, how am I going to do this? I guess I'll put it above, because subflows are not runtime components. So if I put a round robin in there, and then I really mess up MuleSoft by putting a flow reference, a recursive flow reference in here. This is black magic, everybody. Don't do this stuff. If I do that, then it doesn't use the same round robin. So when it comes back in, so if you did like a test of this, you would get you would only get, I'm going to put it back at the beginning. You would always recurse. So this, first, if it's a very weird little experiment, a recursive subflow reference at the top of a round robin infinitely recurses the first time you call it, right? And then the second time you call it, it doesn't, right? So it's a very weird situation. But so round robin always starts with route number 1, and then route number 2, and route number 3. It's just subflows that mess that up. So, but this question is not talking about the round robin router, right? It's talking about persistent queues and whether they behave in a round robin fashion or not.
Well, now they do.
Well, Cloud Hub doesn't, because it's the reason it doesn't. The reason it is C. The reason it's C is that the listeners on persistent queues are actually SQS listeners, so it's a competing consumer pattern. Oh, I got to use vocabulary here. So when I say that, that's on our favorite enterprise integration patterns website, which is probably going to get you guys 10% better performance on this exam if you just read this book. I think every MuleSoft architect, if you read this book, you will improve your performance on the exam. Not just the website. The book has more in it than the website. So if you lived in Oklahoma, I could let you borrow mine, but you don't live here. So I don't know if any of you live here. Yeah, Philip does. Philip can borrow it. But competing consumer is a pattern in here. Right. Boom. So what that does is you have a channel, and you have consumers that are competing for the work that's on the channel, and whoever gets there first gets the next message, right? So if you have one that's going faster than the other, it's going to get more messages, right? Because they're both trying to get as quickly as they can. So that's not anything to do with MuleSoft VM queues, except for the accidental fact that underneath the hood on Cloud Hub 1, persistent queues are implemented on Amazon SQS. So what MuleSoft doesn't, they don't say that in the documentation. What they just do is they tell you you can't depend on the deterministic round robin behavior. That's all they say. But you don't want to have to memorize that, right? You want to know what's happening under the hood, and then you'll get more chance to get it right. You want to try this? Let's see if we can get the LLM to make this into a Cloud Hub 2 question. What do you think? Let's try a prompt. Ready? So let's see. Create a similar question to number 233, but make this question about Cloud Hub 2.0 with clustering enabled. Is that all I have to say? Probably. That's a short prompt. I still think it could do it. Use the same flows that are in the practice exam And what I'll do for that one, because this is something maybe you didn't know, Claude and ChatGPT, you can send images. So I'm going to actually give it an image of this question here by taking a little screenshot and putting it on my prompt like that. See? Boom. Let's see how it does. Oh, I didn't tell it to go search the web first. There's a good chance, Maxim, like you said in the chat, there's a good chance it's going to hallucinate. But let's see. The Cloud Hub 2 with clustering enabled and multiple replicas. At least it got the vocabulary right. How are messages routed to the Cloud Hub 2.0 replicas as messages are received by the VM listener? Each message is routed to all replicas. It's definitely not going to happen. Well, B got less convincing, didn't it? A consistent hashing algorithm. Each message is routed to the primary replica first and only redirected to second replicas if the primary is unavailable. Each message is load balanced across all available replicas using a round robin distribution pattern. What do you guys think is the right answer for Cloud Hub 2.0? We're going to rule A out again, right? With only one replica processing the message while others discard it. I mean, it's Hazelcast clustering, so I guess technically it is being uploaded to the other replicas. But D and A would both be accurate in that case, because one is about data transmission and the other one, I don't think A is, I think that the LLM worded A too believably. It's too believable. So I don't think it's A. It's still, VM queues are never going to be one to many, right? Cloud Hub 1, Cloud Hub 2 makes no difference to that. And it should have kept, I think it should have just kept D the same, except called it replica instead of it. I don't think it should have got fancy with the wording. Let me ask it, what do you think? Do you think the right answer is for the new question? Uh-oh, one message remaining until 2 p.m. You see that? So I used up my Claude. Long context windows use up your they do use up your license. So that's okay though.
Maybe you could create a project with instructions and the context, and then you just create a new chat each time within the project.
You think that'll save?
That's a smaller context window, so less tokens.
Oh,
it doesn't save your requests, but uses less tokens. Well, actually, yeah, it uses less tokens. Yeah.
I started trying one for my current class, but yeah, that would be better. Well, we can always switch over to ChatGPT now, since right, since we ran out of tokens on Claude. So let's do this again. Plus users now get access to more. Yeah, sure. Deep research is where it goes and finds out.
In my recent attempts studying with LLMs for anything, actually Gemini 2.5 Pro did the best.
You want to have a head-to-head?
So when using AI studios, I'm not like you can fine tune sometimes the model. So not directly here, but in an AI studio, and then you can also upload more types of files there. Yeah, so this model.
How do I get AI Studio?
You just type AI Studio, and then I think it will find you the website.
Is it Gemini AI Studio, or is this a general?
It's just AI Studio Google. It's like the workspace where you configure your API keys, etc. So just stay here, try Gemini, and you can select the model and then fine tune some parameters. But it gives you like a more power user experience around the LLM. So,
and it'll use my API.
You don't need the key. You can just use the AI UI.
So Flash.
Pro. Now the Pro one, yeah. So it like gave me the best results so far from all I tried.
Let's give that one a go. Yeah, I'll try Gemini. This will be my first time trying Gemini for this problem. And I think the only thing I did with Gemini was fun stuff before with my personal. So yeah, so I need to add upload file. This, and we'll say, I could probably just go take my same prompt that we just did. All right. Where can I put? Okay, there we go. This is the practice exam. Run. And I can mess with the. Oh, look at this. I like this over here. I can tell it more. I can turn on Google search grounding, which I wish I already did.
Yeah, you could also go to advanced settings and like do some more stuff. So it's actually give you controls like you would have in the API when you use the API.
Mm-hmm. Studio. Yeah. Okay. It gave me its plan. Okay, let's try the first question. Oh, and I can hit enter, and I have to actually click run, which is a good thing actually, because I hate accidentally having it start. Refer to the exhibit. It didn't tell me that it had a diagram, but this is question 12. Let's go back. Now, I have to be careful when I'm getting the diagrams not to let myself see the A answer because it's already going to be right. So, okay. An organization deploys multiple Mule applications to the same customer-hosted Mule runtime. Many of these Mule applications must expose an HTTPS endpoint on the same port using a server-side certificate that rotates often. Okay, when deploying these Mule applications, what is the most effective way to package the listener configuration and package or store the server-side certificate in order to minimize disruption caused by periodic certificate rotation? Sounds good. Here's the picture. So one Mule runtime, multiple apps. They all have to receive traffic from the same incoming HTTPS endpoint. And this is a question of how to design the sharing of the port. Cool. So 1A is package the listener configuration in all Mule applications that must expose an HTTPS endpoint. Package the server-side certificate in a new Mule domain project. Okay. Number B is we're going to package the listener configuration in a domain project and reference it from all the applications. Store the certificate in a shared file system location outside the domain project or any Mule application. C is also to put the listener configuration in a domain project. That one says package the certificate in all the applications. So each application carries a certificate with C. And in D, package the listener configuration in domain project again. So A is the only one that doesn't do that. D says reference it from all the applications. Again, package the certificate in the same domain project. So we have 3 options with the listener config in the domain, 1 without it, and the one without it has the certificate in the domain. And then out of the remaining 3, we have the certificate on disk somewhere, we have the certificate in the applications, or we have the certificate in the domain project. So any thoughts? I know Francis is our hybrid server guy here, so you're biting your tongue, I'm sure.
I am, yes.
This is your life.
Well, I did the certification once, so I shouldn't tell anyone as well the answer. And I think I still remember it.
Oh, this was on the actual test?
It's very similar, yes.
I don't know if we'll ever do the test again. There's just maintenance exams now.
Yeah.
I think I got notified that I had to do it months ago, so I called up.
Yeah, and there's a change in certification in July coming up too, where it's going to be. I think they're going to move it to Pearson View or something like that. But I wouldn't worry about that, guys. This exam is difficult enough that it's not too important what the means of taking the certification is. It's much more about the content, I think. All right, let me look in the chat, see if anybody's typing anything. I guess I can reason through it.
Maybe ask the LLM to reason through it.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
That's where it is here.
Rule out one option and explain your reasoning. I don't want it to give the whole thing away yet. Okay, let's rule out option C, which was package a domain project and reference it from all applications, and then package the certificate in the applications. Let's see what it says. Option C suggests packaging it in all Mule applications that must expose an endpoint. If the certificate is packaged within each application, every single one of those applications will need to be rebuilt and redeployed whenever the certification changes. It maximizes rather than minimizes the disruption and workload. I don't know, guys. I'm going to give it a C+, because that would be true, except the fact that you can't even do it. So you can't refer to an application certificate in a domain listener. The class path won't work that way. So, right. So I almost love that explanation. It's close, but it's believable. But it's wrong in a little tiny way for what the reasoning is. But it's right that that's not the right answer. It's not bad. You want to do another one? I don't want to tell it it's a bad response. Okay. Pick the right answer and explain your reasoning. I'll tell it. Your reasoning for option C missed the constraint that domain listener configs cannot reference certificates in the application class path. Also, it wouldn't make sense since there's many applications.
So that was exactly my problem several years ago with the ChatGPT. Like I think it was 3.5 at that time. It was kind of answering something which sounded right, but it was not grounded in all the MuleSoft knowledge, right? So it just didn't have it. This is how it looked like, at least.
We'll see if we can get it, because I think what I'm finding in my real work is using tools to hedge that risk, right? I'll get it to go check the web. But let's see. It says B, and I'll tell it to do that if it didn't. Correct answer is B. Shared HTTP listener. We meet that requirement. Certificate management and rotation. The certificate rotates often, and the goal is to minimize disruption. Placing it within each application is incorrect. Anyway, highly disruptive is true anyway. Placing the certificate within a domain means the domain has to be redeployed every time you rotate it, which wipes all the applications out. That's the right one. So if you store it outside, it should say it only requires replacing the file and possibly restarting the runtime or reloading the domain context domain. Okay, well, that's a squishy and incorrect. And you have to restart the domain to get it to there's no such thing as reloading the domain context. That's not a real thing. Without needing to rebuild or redeploy the domain project or any of the individual applications. It is, I mean, it came to the right conclusion. Okay, so let's confirm your reasoning for option B, because let's pretend I didn't know that, right? Using the MuleSoft documentation for domains on docs.mulesoft.com. Now, reason I'm putting I don't know about Gemini, at least on some of my MCP tools, I have to explicitly state a URL for it to be allowed to go to that URL. I don't know if Gemini does that, but I have a habit. Because what I'd like it to do is give me a link that I can click and reference that.
Agent Force will give little more accurate.
That's a good question. I haven't. You want to go on help.salesforce.com and try it?
Yeah, I think. I don't know whether that will.
It found 6 links. Oh, it didn't check the topic that I, in particular, show me, reference, authoritative, reference your sources for what will be necessary when the certificate is rotated. I'm having to like press it. I'm having to like be a little bit rude with it. So let me get that help.salesforce.com idea started. When the domain starts. Here's what the documentation and general Mule runtime behavior applies. Necessary, file replacement, configuration, reload. Restart the runtime, domain, reload, restart. Depending on the specific Mule version and management tools, there might be ways to, okay, it's definitely using softer language here. Trigger a reload or restart of just the Mule domain without restarting the runtime. You could undeploy and redeploy the domain. That would do it. But there isn't a hot reload. That is true. But it didn't give me any links. Yeah, it's not cooperating here, and I had to already be suspicious of it to get this far. All right, you want to try Rom's idea? All right, Rom, how do we do this? We want to find out. I'm going to go back and get the question like this. Help me choose the right answer to this. I haven't tried Agent Force before. I'm just doing it from scratch. Let's see. Boom. Pasted the whole thing. Package it in a Mule domain project, referencing it from, okay, I got the right answer. Okay. In this scenario, what is required? What is the least disruptive way to begin using the new certificate after replacing it on the server's file system? Yeah. Replace the certificate. What? What just happened? It censored itself. You saw it started to answer, and then it stopped and censored itself, and it said it wasn't.
Maybe you're not an enterprise customer yet.
I'm not logged in. Let me reword it. After replacing the file on the MuleSoft server's file system. Remember, MuleSoft is a Salesforce product. I'm going to be a little pushy with it. I'm going to do some prompt engineering here. See if we can jailbreak it. Replace certificate file. Oh, we got it to do it. Restart the Mule applications. That's not true, though. No, that's not true. You have to replace the domain because the listener's in the domain. The listener config's in the domain. I mean, I could try it. I mean, this is a Salesforce Agentforce. But, yeah. That was interesting. All right, I think I have time to do one more. Let's do another Gemini. You want to do another Gemini? All right. Let's do another one here. Let's try another question. Definitely going to add AI Studio to my mix. All right, question 41. In a Mule application, a flow I like this question because it's tricky. This is a tricky one. A flow contains two JMS consume operations. I like it because it makes you, it shows that the exam is going to make you know about all these different protocols, not just APIs only, not just REST only, right? Two JMS consume operations that are used to connect to a JMS broker and consume messages from two destinations. I see that, Francis. ChatGPT 4. I still haven't did that. I had it up, but we went with Gemini just for fun here. I think I've tried O3 Mini. I would probably do O3 Mini on ChatGPT. Okay, two consume operations. The Mule application joins the two messages together. The broker does not implement high availability and periodically experiences scheduled outages of up to 10 minutes for routine maintenance. How should the Mule flow be built so it can recover from the expected outages? I really would pay attention to the meaning of the actual question because all of this is context and this is the question. How should the Mule application be built so it can recover from the expected? Now, what would it mean to recover? All right. So think about what it would mean to recover. As you're reading the answers, you want to be thinking, what does recovery mean? So if I enclose the two operations in an until successful scope, that's going to do one thing. I could configure a transaction and then see what that does. I could configure a reconnection strategy, which would do something different. And then last one is I could enclose in a try scope with an on-air continue error handler. You guys lost? Or is this? We could do the Gemini thing again. All right. So, which? Actually, let me check this one. This is question number 41. I want to see what the exam is saying. See if I agree with it. I don't always. Oh yeah, the exam is saying what I think, and it's a surprising answer to most of you. So which of these is the right answer? Prove it with evidence from the web. Okay, it says the one I thought. It also the one the exam says, but that's not the one most people expect. Temporary network issues. This mechanism is the reconnection strategy. It gives you the purpose with a bunch of links. Wait a minute. It says 1, 2, 3, 6. Well, what is 1, 2, 3, 6? Maybe I have to open this up. Oh, so it gave me evidence. It doesn't tell me what the URLs are, right?
So it's not in the reasoning.
1, 2, 3, 6. It might be in the reasoning. It doesn't look like it. It just gave me numbers. There's no way it just made the numbers up. What? What are the URLs for the footnotes in your response? I need to go back to the search results I implicitly used or perform a new search to find the documentation pages. It's just going to go search and find. Well, that's not bad, but it didn't. I wish it would have done that in the first place. I probably could make my prompt more robust to make it do that. But it's not just using MuleSoft. Look at that. It's got Kalias here for the until successful scope.
Well, you wanted evidence from the web.
Yeah.
So it's good it didn't bring TikTok in the mix.
That's true. TikTok evidence. Yeah. Okay, I suppose we can just finish up with what reconnection strategy and why it wasn't transactions, first of all. Right? Why wasn't the answer to use a transaction? Because a lot of times people think, recovery from outages, but what transactions do is they roll things back. Right? They allow you to undo stuff or never apply in the first place. See what it says. Connection failure. It cannot communicate with the JMS broker because it's offline for maintenance. Yep. So transaction's purpose is if everything succeeds, it commits. If anything fails, it rolls back. Transactions require a connection. Yeah. Or they'll time out and roll back. So what that will do is the transaction would allow it to roll back the consume operations. Like way back on the question, it says to consume. So it would roll it back and the data would be fine if we use the transaction, but we wouldn't recover. We would just fail. Right? So I feel like the reason it's not transactions is this word recover. Transactions don't allow you to recover. They only allow you to cancel, right? If something goes down. And then until successful and triscope, those are both going to be, if the second one fails, the first one's already completed in both of those. So you would only get partial success. So this was fun. I'm glad we learned AI Studio. Thanks, Maxim. This is a new piece of my. I guess we should try one on ChatGPT, right? Since we're still here. We tried Agent Force. Ram, if you know a better way to do Agent Force, I'll do that. If there's some way I didn't do it, like. If you give me any tip, I would like to try that too. It didn't do bad, but all right. I started this. Let's put the same prompt in here.
And Agent Force, Ryan, you were talking about?
Yeah, you suggested it. Did I do what you were thinking?
Yeah. Whether
There is-
it has
there-
to go
there-
to all the Mule docs, correct? I think Agent Force has been trained with entire Mule and Salesforce articles.
Mhm.
So it
There-
has to fetch.
There is another thing to try if you're fancy one day for studying. LM Notebook is really good. But it's a different style of working with data. where you like really put all of your resources which you have, like documentation, PDF files, YouTube videos, whatever you want. And it can summarize, it can make you even like a podcast style summary over all the data which you uploaded or shared. And then you can ask questions, and it's for studying. It's really good. So you just create a new notebook and start studying.
We could make one with the practice exam and then more materials.
This would be like, it could really find you like summaries, insights, answer questions, but it's a different style, so it's kind of fine-tuned for like giving you insights into data.
I'm gonna have to experiment with that too. We might be able to have another study group where you kind of show us a working notebook, right? That might be a good one.
Or you could actually take I don't know, this documentation and generate a podcast and go to sleep with it.
Go to sleep with it.
I don't know, but it will be a podcast which you can kind of listen to.
And
So
drive around. Yeah.
the fun thing here to do is just upload your CV and generate a podcast and listen about yourself. It's really fun. Just try it. You will be amazed.
That sounds pretty fun. Yeah. So you make a notebook and you upload sources. Now I can't give it web searches or, oh yes I can. Google Drive. Can I hook? I would like to hook my Gmail up to it.
Maybe you can. I don't know.
It is a Google product.
Yeah.
Right? I could do a notebook about all of my subscriptions and have it tell me what I could cancel. Right?
Well, could be.
Yeah. Upload a source.
So when you generate this deep dive conversation, it will do your kind of podcast style conversation about your data.
I'm going to try that. That's pretty cool. Let's do a security question. I want to see how ChatGPT does also. I forgot to tell it which ChatGPT, so I think it's defaulting to 4.0. I'm going to play with this. 2 hosts, English generated deep dive conversation. That is such a cool thing.
Actually, lots of students do use it
For studying?
Yeah. You kind of you pull everything about your studies into it, and then just summarize or do research or whatever you want.
Yeah. This is not going too fast. So maybe I shouldn't have clicked deep research. So just thinking.
No, it would take half an hour.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to spend half an hour with you guys. Oh, finally. We'll come back next week with the answer. Oh boy. Well, okay. I think that's kind of what I had in mind for today's study group, was just getting everybody some direct, maybe encouragement of seeing what it looks like to use LLMs if you're not already using them, or also learn from each other's experience. I think we got both of those today. So that's been very productive. So I think I'm going to end it here at the recording, and